Merlin is a figure that has indisputably permeated the history of mankind. Its archetype has transcended over the centuries and has shaped a recurrent image of a wise, old man, studious, who knows the secrets of the natural world and possesses powers beyond earthly logic. This image of the collective imagination has flooded numerous works and even films, but what do we really know about Merlin? Merlin is someone full of mystery and unknowns, who even today continues to attract the attention of experts and scholars for his incredible magical abilities and wisdom. It is known that Merlin had the ability to not only cast magical incantations or healer spells, but he could project the future, change shape at will, become invisible, and even communicate with the plant kingdom through speech, as well as with fairies, gnomes, and dragons. But the most incredible thing is that Merlin was not always a benevolent and affable figure. In fact, at the beginning of his biography, we can see that he was a dark and evil being who tried to take the humans to the darkest part of their being. That's right, Merlin was a dark wizard. If you like curiosities of our history or ancient myths, subscribe to my channel to enjoy more content like this. Don't hesitate, it's free. Merlin is the name of a legendary wizard who lived presumably in Britain during the 5th century. In addition, he was King Arthur's top advisor in the Arthurian legend, or also called Matter of Britain. In this set of epic works, Merlin is presented as a man born of an illicit relationship between a demon and a woman, a nun. Although in some works, this woman varies and turns out to be a witch of the forest or even a princess of South Wales. Merlin's story is full of mysteries, and his life being told by literary works mostly with little historical value makes it even more difficult to trace and find an exact date on his birth and death. According to these writings, the character of Merlin has its origins in various figures of Celtic mythology and in medieval tales. Although Merlin, as we know him today, is the product of a long literary evolution, his early traces can be found in medieval Britain, in stories that were collected by authors such as Geoffrey of Monmouth in the 12th century. Geoffrey of Monmouth and his Historia Regum Britanniae, History of the Kings of Britannia, is one of the earliest texts to present Merlin as the great wizard advisor to King Arthur. Geoffrey describes him as a man of prophetic and magical abilities, and it is in his work that Merlin first adopts the role of advisor and mentor to Arthur. In the earliest legends, Merlin is described as the son of a demon or incubus, an evil spirit, giving him a connection to the supernatural world. However, in many tales, Merlin also has a deep knowledge of nature, astrology, and the magical arts, enabling him to perform great feats. Although Merlin is a mythical figure, some believe that there may have been a real person or a combination of several historical figures in his creation. Some suggest that Merlin may be based on the character of a Druidic priest or a Celtic sage, whose magical abilities were exaggerated over time. One of the closest figures to Merlin is Merlin Wilt, A poet and seer from ancient Wales. In Welsh texts, Merlin figures similarly to Merlin, a wise man, gifted with prophetic abilities, and who, like Merlin, is known for his connection to nature and mysticism. Some scholars suggest that Merlin may be based on a historical figure named Ambrosius Aurelianus, a 5th century British Roman military leader who fought against Saxon invaders. Geoffrey of Monmouth, in his work Historia Regum Britanniae, mentions Ambrosius Aurelianus and describes him as a wise and heroic leader, which some think may have merged with the mythical figure of Merlin. In Welsh mythology, there is a figure who resembles the role of a wise counselor, similar to Merlin, called Hay Haugefesh. Hay is a hero and prince who appears in stories as part of the Mabinogion, an important cycle of Celtic myths. Although not directly Merlin, some scholars suggest that the stories of Heo and other Celtic heroes may have influenced the construction of the figure of the wise wizard. As I mentioned earlier, Merlin may have come from the Druids, priests and sages of ancient Celtic culture, especially in Gaul, what would today be France and the United Kingdom. Druids were known for their knowledge of nature, magic, prophecy, and the handling of sacred rituals. The figure of the wise and knowledgeable magician that we have in Merlin could be inspired by these ancient priests, who were sometimes considered intermediaries between gods and men, and possessed great authority. By the way, let me remind you that every drawing you see me creating in this channel, you have it available in my online store. I'll leave you the direct link in the description and the comment box. This possible historical dating helps to understand the chronology of the Merlin myth in later literature. The first Merlin-like figures, such as Merlin, begin to appear in Welsh and Celtic stories around the 6th and 7th centuries. These stories have a very ancient root, but were mainly transmitted orally until they were collected in medieval writings. With the work of Geoffrey of Monmouth, during the medieval period of the 12th century, Merlin becomes a key figure in the Arthurian cycle. This is the transition point in which magic, prophecy, and the figure of Merlin as Arthur's mentor are incorporated. In the works of authors such as Bertrand de Troyes and Thomas Malory, the figure of Merlin is consolidated as a central magician in the stories of the knights, with a very prominent role in the adventures of Arthur and Guinevere, and the other knights of the Round Table. This period is known as the Arthurian canon of the 15th and 16th centuries. Despite his gloomy origins, Merlin changed throughout his life towards a brighter intellectual path, and was fundamental in Arthur's childhood. It was he who organized the famous test in which Arthur pulled the sword Excalibur from the stone, providing that he was the true king of England, and Merlin, as the king's advisor, began to educate him, guiding him in the principles of justice and morality. However, the legend of Merlin does not have a happy ending. When Merlin was quite old, he met a very beautiful young woman named Nimue. She was the daughter of the king of Northumberland, and Merlin lost his head over her. He began to teach her very powerful enchantments in exchange for her becoming his mistress. He even built her a place at the bottom of a lake and gave her the name Lady of the Lake. Eventually, the young Nimue began to fear him, since he was the son of a demon, and asked him for the spell to trap a man. Merlin confessed it to her, and the young sorcerers imprisoned him forever in a crystal prison, or according to other versions, in a rock or in a tree, from which Merlin could not get out, but she could enter and leave whenever she wanted. Merlin is a mythological character, but real as he appears forever in the human psyche. An archetypal sage, healer, druid with great knowledge of mysticism so popular in medieval times, and above all, of the hidden side of nature that plays a nexus between life, morality, and destiny. Merlin does appear in this world to guide us all.